all sorted out there. I'd like to welcome everyone to our Rainforest Alliance Stakeholder Forum in November. And welcome all our partners, stakeholders, whom we are signing agreements with in our country. Thank you for coming today. I'd like to initially invite everyone out here to be frank with what you have to say and you get the opportunity. I'll start with introducing the Rainforest Alliance team who are here today as well as who live in Sri Lanka. So first of all, we have Dr. Madhuri Nanda from the Director of South Asia in Sri Lanka and India, and some South Asian countries which still are coming on board. And we have Evelyn Cantor, who's the Manager for Regional Agriculture for RA, and she's based in the US. Then we have Elena Nera, Senior Associate for Farm and Landscape Biodiversity, and works on regional agriculture, and she's based in the Netherlands. Then you all know Mr. Giri Kandrugamua, who's been with RA since 2012 and now serves on an advisory capacity for us. Actually, I can't do without Giri, so thank you, Giri. And then, Dasun, come. We have Dasun Saranga, some people know you as Saranga, some people know you as Dasun, who's on our team overlooking standard and assurance aspects of our certification. And we have Manori, who's hiding here. Manori, whom you all know from James Finlay before, and today she's been with RA since April 2021. And she's actually the first option for registration, and she handles customer success in the country. And then we have Chamikara Kamagedra, who works, he's taken over Giri's role of training. And it's certification partner support that comes under. And Chamikara also has now just coming to his first year of completion. Right. Yeah, and we just have accounts assistant Mihiri Senaratna. I think she's still outside registering people. And we do have one or two other individuals that may join our team for a regenerative agriculture project that we are going to do. So I'd like to first bring on Dr. Madhuri Nanda to talk about Rainforest Alliance's vision for 2030, and we'll move on from there.
Thanks, Jehan. Good morning, everyone. It's always so good to see the room so full, you know. It just goes on to confirm to us your commitment towards sustainability, your journey so far, and I want to congratulate all of you for that. We don't have a hand mic, right? No, it's okay. Do we have? Yes. I mean, it's always difficult to stand behind the podium as if I'm hiding behind something. So I would like to be among all of you. A very warm welcome, good morning. Sri Lanka is more like a second home to me now, and I've been working, most of you already know, in the capacity of Director for South Asia. I'm looking after India and Sri Lanka operations primarily. And I've been with Rainforest Alliance for the last 3 years now. And in these 3 years, I've been awestruck, inspired, and really amazing journey, sustainability journey that all of you have towards the tea sector in India by adhering to the Rainforest Alliance sustainability standards requirement. I do acknowledge and I do know, and we have been hearing, that there are a lot of challenges with respect to the 2020 standard and its compliance. We are aware of that, and that's also the reason why we have this big team, which Jehan just introduced to all of you, which is there to support our members and our partners in complying with the standard requirements. And we hold these kind of events which are not, it's more like a dialogue, a conversation, to really understand and hear from you the feedback, see how we can support better, how we can address those challenges. So feel free during this half a day to come up to any of us or during any of these discussions or presentation to share what do you think, what are your feedbacks, critical, positive, negative, either ways, so that we can improve and enhance our work in Sri Lanka going forward. I think one thing that I would like to start off with is Rainforest Alliance is known mostly through its standard, its certification program, which we have been taking up in Sri Lanka for a very long time. Giri has been the face of our RA certification program. We started in 2012, Giri? Yeah, 2012, so 2008. So last 15 years, this certification program has been trying to inculcate the sustainability perspectives into the tea sector. And we are very encouraged to see, and you will hear from Jehan's presentation, the scope of certification, how many RPCs are already in it, how many smallholders are in this program, which goes on to say how much you are committed towards sustainability, and we are very encouraged to see that. Beyond that, the certification program, we also have certain projects with our donor partners companies like Kirin, like Unilever, which has been supporting our work to train and bring more and more farmers and groups into certification for Rainforest Alliance. So we are very happy that this engagement continues, and we will be sharing also some of the progress on those projects. We are also now recently starting with a regenerative agriculture scorecard for tea sector, which is being piloted in Sri Lanka for the first time. We have not had this in tea sector at Rainforest Alliance anywhere in the globally. We have experienced it in coffee. We are also doing it in cocoa. And tea, we are trying to implement it in Sri Lanka. And you will hear more during the day through these presentations of what are our aspirations, how we plan to do that. And we would love to have your views, your questions, where we are also looking at scaling it up once we have piloted and found some results. You will hear more from the experts. I'm not an expert. I think two things that I would like to touch upon today is one on the shared responsibility. Now, you might be already aware of the 2020 certification program where we are talking about shared responsibility, which is the sustainability requirement is not only for the producers to comply with. It is also a responsibility that the buyers or the brands need to share the cost and the benefits, both, for sustainability with the producers. And this shared responsibility concept for the tea sector has already been implemented from July 1. So any transaction which is done on multi-trace from July 1, right, Mallory? July 1st, will be attracting an invoice for the buyer to pay to the producer the sustainability differential, which is a cash payment to the producer, and a sustainability investment, which could be cash or in-kind investment, which comes back to the producer. Now, we've been talking about it for a very long time, and there are a lot of apprehensions, I know. At least I know a lot in India and in Sri Lanka, producers are not very confident that this kind of a system will fly through. We are finding it difficult, but we are still very hopeful, and we are pushing it as a mandatory requirement. So any brand that wants to claim Rainforest Alliance certified teas or coffee or cocoa product will have to pay the sustainability differential and sustainability investment to the producer. Now, there's a big responsibility also on the producer's end to make sure that they are transacting all of this on the multi-trace platform. Unless we do that, we will not be able to bring traceability, and we will not be able to generate the invoice which has to come back to the producer. So along with the benefits that we are trying to bring through the shared responsibility, there is a requirement also for the producers to make sure that they are putting everything transparently on the multi-trace platform. They are registering on the Convera system their bank account details so that those payments can start coming back, which is something that we are expecting to start from 2024. Again, I'm not an expert. There may be several questions in mind, and I welcome you all to go to our website, look at these questions on our Knowledge Hub, which is publicly available, which will give you more information. And if you still have more questions, Manori is your contact point. So she will be able to answer your questions. I'm also here in case you have more questions around it, but I may or may not be able to answer all of that because we have dedicated teams working at the back end on these issues. But I think what I do want to emphasize here is two things. One, the cost which is not coming to the producer. This is one of the ways in which Rainforest Alliance is committed to bring the value back to the producers to meet the sustainability requirements. Point number two, it's important for us as producers to make sure that we transact in the multi-trace so that those volumes which are redeemed by the buyers or brands generate an invoice and the money comes back to you once your accounts are registered, account information is registered in Convera. Any questions? Customer success team is your point of contact, and I'm really hoping that this gets successful. We are all learning in this process, and that's also the reason why we gave it as a transition period. Please stop me when I'm going overboard. I have time, okay. The second thing that I do want to also emphasize here are what we also hear from Guardian and other social issues in the tea sector, which media flags to us. You might have also seen news about things in Kenya. You might have seen some news articles in Sri Lanka. And what is Rainforest Alliance doing about it? I think it's important to understand that our standard does have a social compliance chapter, and it mandates that the companies who are on the Rainforest Alliance certification program comply with those criteria. We have audits that happen, but we also acknowledge that most of these audits may or may not be able to highlight, flag all of these issues which are in the sector. As part of a new standard, we came up, and you must already be aware, I think you people know the standard more than me, because you are actually implementing it in your own gardens, in your systems. The assess and address approach, where initially we had a pass and fail approach. If you meet those criteria, you are in the standard, in our certification program. If you don't, you are out. Now with the 2020 standard, we are trying to inculcate the assess. Let's assess together for the companies, the social issues. Like if you, for example, have child labor or any discrimination-related issue or any violence-related issue in your garden which is reported to you through the grievance mechanism, then you can actually work, put in a remediation action in place, and work through it to address the issue, not really put it under the carpet or see that the auditors are not able to find it. We really encourage the assess and address approach so that these social issues are addressed more than a pass and fail approach where if you comply with it, you are in the system, otherwise you are out. So we see that this system is a very good way of addressing these issues. But at the same time, we also see that it's more of a behavior change which we expect from the workers, from the management. A lot of grievance mechanism, as we saw in Kenya as well, is implemented, but not in the true spirit. So how do we really try and address these kind of issues? And we see mostly in our regions, I'm looking at it in Assam, and Jehan is looking at it in Sri Lanka, to see how we can develop partnerships. Partnerships with those organizations who are already working on these issues in the sector. To work alongside them, where the workers already trust these organizations, and the management of the tea estates also trust these organizations. There's an existing relationship. How can we work alongside them to see how we can address these issues together through these alliances and partnerships? Just to give an example, in Assam, we have UN Women, which is already working in the tea sector with the tea workers. And because of their continuous work over more than a decade, they have already seen some results, and they have some ideas on how those could be remediated. Now, those are the areas where we can work together with them and not really start from the scratch. There is work which has already been done, something similar in Sri Lanka, which is where we are trying to see how we can work jointly with them and address these kind of social issues, because audits may or may not be able to really flag all of those issues. Certification is not the tool to address all the issues. It may be able to flag certain things, it may not be able to flag certain issues, but when we bring together all of these stakeholders who are working on these issues, then we can actually help address those challenges in the sector. I would like to leave with this thought. I have more time? Okay. So just to let you know, in Rainforest Alliance, we are working with this brand-led approach for the shared responsibility. All the concept that I mentioned about sustainability differential and investment, we are basically trying to see how brands can actually encourage and promote sustainability within their supply chains. Because we are working with around 500 tea farms globally, which involves about 800,000 workers. And these are the numbers which could be impacted if the sustainability differential and investment, the shared responsibility concept really becomes successful. In tea sector, I would also like to mention that we have not yet defined the bare minimum differential and investment that needs to be paid by the buyers or the brands. But at the same time, we encourage the brands to really pay a good amount of investment, which is something which is negotiated between the buyers and the producers. But since we are starting and we want to see how it pans out over a given period of time, for now we have put in a minimum, it's not a maximum, it's a minimum amount of $10 per metric ton of tea which is transacted as sustainability differential. This differential is, once again, cash which is paid by the buyer to the producer over and above the market premium. Over and above the market price, $10 per metric ton has to come back to the producer, which is the invoice which is generated by the system. Rainforest Alliance is the facilitator, $10 per metric ton, minimum. And the sustainability investment of $40 per metric ton, which is based on the investment plan of the producer. If you have, as a producer, already spent certain amount of money to comply with the standard requirements to make sure that the buyer has the sustainable tea in his supply chain, then that investment has to come up in the investment plan. Now, we do understand there are a lot of complicated documentation that RA has had in the past. We've been hearing about it all this while. And that's also the reason why the sustainability investment plan template has been simplified. It has been simplified, and again, CS team can help you through how to fill that template. But $40 per metric ton of sustainability investment based on the sustainability investment plan which the producer has should come back. And this is all applicable on teas that are transacted from July 1, 2023, this year. We still have to see when the transactions really come, the revenues actually come back to the producers, and I'm aware that only then we will actually be able to have confidence that this system will be working. But again, it is, I'm reiterating the third time, it is the responsibility of the producers also to make sure that we put everything in the multi-trace platform, traceability is strengthened, because only then we will be able to attract these investments to come back to the producers. We do have our CS team, customer success team, which is there to train, onboard, support our members onto the multi-trace platform. And I really encourage you to utilize these resources that we have now based in Sri Lanka so that you are able to smoothly transition to our new standard and get the benefits. Let me stop here. And if there are any questions related to this, I would be, are there any questions, any comments, any feedbacks on the things that I shared, or anything else that you would?
Well, I have one question only.
Ji.
When we produce buyers are supposed to pay $10 for the producer. I don't think that mechanism will work well. I'm a buyer, so what I'm trying to say is, if I have to give them back $10 per kilo.
Per metric ton.
Per metric ton, sorry. It will be my add-on cost. What I finally pay producers will get lower by that amount. So that's how I think. I mean, as a buyers, that is how we work. So they will not get the real benefit out of it unless your RA calculates all the produce purchased by so and so. You pay separately. Then it is not add-on cost for us. I don't know whether 10 cents you are trying to pay for 1 metric ton will really be beneficial to the producers.
Thank you for that question. And I think we do hear this very often from the producers also, that buyers will exactly do what he just mentioned. And that's not the intent of the shared responsibility. It's not the responsibility of Rainforest Alliance to pay back to the producers. It's not going to be sustainable. Sustainability will only come, I'll come back to you, Roshan, in a minute. Sustainability will only come when the supply chain actors take the responsibility. And we also see a role for consumers in the whole thing. And that's where also we are trying to see how we can bring more awareness to the consumers so that there is more demand for sustainable products in the market. Like we are working with certain companies to see if we can look at their cafes or tea shops, especially in India where there's a lot of domestic market for tea. 80% of the tea in India is domestically consumed, but they are not aware of sustainability. How can we work with these companies to bring more awareness to the consumers, which could actually lead to a greater demand for sustainable products? So I think what you, sir, just mentioned is not the intent of the shared responsibility, that you reduce that number and then give it back as a sustainability differential. That's exactly not what is intended. Over and above the market premium. For the supply chain actors to remain in the certification program, they will have to provide the sustainability differential, a cash component over and above the market premium. We also fear that there may be some who may drop out of the certification program because they feel that it is not possible, but we don't see a pathway anywhere else beyond this. It has to be the responsibility of the supply chain actors to look at the sustainability component for the producers. Roshan.
Sorry, thank you, Madhuri. Now that my friend has brought up one issue on the part of buyers, sorry if I have to rain on the parade, but I think I have to know the context so that the content of this discussion will have some meaning. Now, whose sustainability are we talking about? Not the producers, on the other side, the marketers, because what we are told repeatedly is that at the profit, more than 50% is retained by the retailer. The producer gets less than 7% if you are lucky. So now all the impositions, all the standards, all the certifications, all the burdens and the costs are completely on the producer side. And what's in it for us? Because I appreciate at least an effort made to give $10 per 1,000 kilos. That's about 3 rupees is, I think, the piece of paper that we use to certify is costing us more. Right? So sorry if I have to bring this up. Can we know whose sustainability we are now talking about today? Producers or the market? I have never seen any protest by consumers asking, we want to pay 10 rupees, 15 rupees more for a kilo of tea. Look at the dollar price that we get at the auction. Look at the shelf price. So why aren't you putting pressure on the marketers, retailers, and whoever to give us more? If we pay more, we can do all these things and more. You know that in Sri Lanka, 70% of every rupee we earn at the auctions, whether we like it or not, by compulsion has to go down to the workers directly as their emoluments. So if you pay $20, we can safely assume that 70% of that will go down. And we as professionals know the value of sustainability, and we are doing everything, human element, the environment element, to sort of sustain our industry. So why do we have this so much of pressure put on us to do sustainability, social conformance, while the problem is lying somewhere else?
Yeah. Thanks, Roshan, for this point. And I think one point that I do want to mention before I give it to Jehan to respond is the role of the retailers. So the retailers also, the buyers or the packagers who are getting this sustainability differential and investment to be paid to the producers need to actually connect with the retailers to make sure that in their contract they add on that value so that that value is flowing back to the producer through the buyers or brands. This is just one point way in which it can work, but I invite Jehan to respond to that.
Yeah. Roshan, yes, I completely see where you are coming from, and I'm also in agreement to that. But just to answer, it's not the Sri Lankan exporter that needs to pay the $10. It's the end buyer that has to contribute that $10 and the $40 on the SD and the $10 on the SI. So as Madhuri mentioned earlier, our Rainforest Alliance certified buyers, the end buyer, they need to buy into this. If they are not, RA has decided that they may walk away from them. And they are willing to take that risk of the end buyer walking away from RA certification. We are having struggles trying to get them on board, as Madhuri said earlier. So it's not the Sri Lankan exporter that we are expecting to pay that $10 or the $40. Okay, so it's from the end buyer.
And I think just on your point of it's peanuts, $10 per metric ton is nothing. It's just the bare minimum to start with. It's not where it should stop. And we are expecting that as the system matures and the payments start coming in, this value would increase over a period of time. Rainforest Alliance would come back to set a bare minimum which is needed. We have not set the bare minimum for now. This is more to have a level playing ground for all the stakeholders, to just start with at least $10 per metric ton for differential, $40 for a sustainability investment. But we expect that as the system matures, as the transactions happen over a period of time, maybe a year or so, we come back and say this is the sustainability differential that the tea sector will attract. Yes.
Thank you for that clarification, Jehan. But why are you all struggling so much? Like what you do to the producers, you can say take it or leave it. That's what we are told.
That's exactly what is happening also for the supply chain actors. If they want to be in the system of Rainforest Alliance, they need to pay. And that is what is becoming mandatory requirement for the supply chain actors through this shared responsibility. But there's a lot of pushback because we do consult. There are consultation programs which are done with all the stakeholders, and we are just hoping that we are able to make it a success. And we may also have a chance that they may drop out because this will be drawing a clear non-conformity at the supply chain actor level when they are not paying it. So it's very clear to the system. But we still, we are in the process, and we are hoping that we are training at the supply chain actor level. We are bringing a lot of training awareness around the producer level so that the entire supply chain is transacted in a traceable manner on the multi-trace. Once again, please make sure that if you have any questions around multi-trace, around trading on the certified volumes, please come back to us and get those questions clarified. Anything around Convera, if you are not able to register your account information, all these are important pieces to make sure that the money comes back to you. So with that, thank you so much for the interaction, and I really look forward to hearing more presentations during the day on our work, on our projects, our footprint in Sri Lanka, and I wish you good luck and thank you once again for this house full. I love it how all of you, show your commitment towards Rainforest Alliance by coming, taking your precious time out of the day, and thank you, Jihan.
Just to add one more thing. When Madhuri meant supply chain, she's also meaning the end buyer, right? Not the exporter here. So to reiterate what she said, that's going to be a conformity that they have to align with. If they don't, RA is willing to take the risk of moving away from them. Okay, so that's just to clarify that. Pradeep?
Yes, well, like Dr. Rajadure mentioned, because being producer, we have taken all the trouble to conform to standard and spending man hours and the money, all that. So I think you all have done great job bringing in all these producers to conformity. So when are going to complete these buyers and the end users to the on board to work the system? Otherwise, this will not. We are expecting this is coming, but where is the deadline? From where we are going to get this? Otherwise, this won't be sustainable.
Agree.
Yeah. Thank you.
So the next audit of the supply chain actor, whenever that happens, it will draw a non-conformity if those investments and differentials are not paid. So we are waiting because it has just started from 1st of July and the payments have to be made from 1st of January 2024. Any audits that happen after that for the supply chain actor will automatically draw a non-conformity if they don't pay the invoice which is generated. But again, based on the volume that is traded on the multi-trace from 1st of July 2023. So we have to make sure that we bring in those volumes to the multi-trace, and then the buyers will be getting an automatic invoice. So it starts from next year, 2024.
I have to make a small change on the presentation, the agenda. Niraj is running a bit late, so I'll go ahead and give the, what am I giving? Yeah, the regional update for Rainforest Alliance, okay? Sorry about that, folks. Mr. Dimel is here, so I'll bring him on board if it's okay.
Morning all, sorry for upsetting your program. Let me first of all thank Jehan and the RA team for inviting me to come and speak a few words. I really do not know what to share with you with regard to RA, except for what I've heard on the periphery from the time I was involved in my last few years in the corporate world, was when it was taking off. Having said that, having listened to so many of the woes in the recent past especially from my dear producer sector, basically as I was sharing with Madhuri and Jehan last afternoon when they came to meet me, our producers, as you know quite rightly, probably are aware, that the cost of production in Sri Lanka is perhaps the highest as far as the tea industry is concerned. So as a result of that, they look forward to a win-win price, a price that will help them to at least keep their head above waters. That tangible benefit, in spite of all the good work put in by RA, has not been evident on a consistent basis. There may have been some years where there was, so much so that the other day when the team from Ekachara came and met me about 2 months back to talk about a sustainability standard, I said, now you guys went on this RA and you said by 2015 every Unilever pack or Lipton pack on the shelves will be RA certified and so on. What is the tangible benefit our producers have got as a result of doing all what they had to do in line to comply with the RA requirements? So his words were, well, to be very honest, there was only a gain in the first 2 years. Since then, of course, it's not there. So I said, now that you're going to meet the PA members, you can ask them. I'm preparing you to what you're going to get back from them, because that's basically what is the ground reality. Having said that, Sri Lankan tea industry is not sustainable, in my view, right at this point in time. Time has come that we've got to look at new ways in which how we keep our industry alive, how we can give the assurance to the end users that we are continuing to be a reliable supplier. The last 3 to 5 years, unfortunately, due to some pretty bad decisions taken by people who are not experts in the field of science, in the field of tea industry, in the field of plantation, in the field of exports, has affected the Sri Lankan tea industry negatively. We are still suffering. We projected something like 275 million kilos for this year, thanks to the RPCs who went on an extensive program of fertilizing smallholders, maybe about 45%. Even then, they may probably have put in 1/3 of what they should be putting in. As a result of that, all I can tell you at this point in time, having completed 10 months, we are only 4 million kilos ahead of last year. November will most probably be barely making a plus, because the month of October hardly saw any sunlight. As a result of which, we may probably end the year not at the figure we thought of, but way less than even 260, but marginally above what we did last year. Now that does not give confidence to the end users. Unless we move away from where we are and do some exclusive marketing. Sadly, even with a product like Ceylon tea, we are still in the supermarket chains, and we are at the behest of supermarkets, which is unsustainable for an industry like Sri Lanka. Our cost of production is high. We can never bring it down 22 million people in a land of 65,000 square kilometers. We cannot do anything better than that. So that advantage is there for India, that advantage is there for Kenya, that advantage is there for many other producing countries, but not for Sri Lanka. So they need assurances. They need assurances. So that should be, from this point onwards, RA should be looking at that, is my point that I can leave with them. Unless you do that, because at the point of when RA entered this scenario, we've already had fair trade, then we moved on to ethical tea partnership. Every one of them basically only said they couldn't give guarantees that the Ceylon tea, whatever that gets certified or is in compliance, will get an additional price. They only said that, well, your estate will be a preferred estate in their basket of teas that they buy. But that never gave any kind of assurances that they are going to get a plus on what they would have been getting right up to that point. So as a result of that, going forward, unless you do something and give assurances to the producers, this is worth it, you're definitely going to see a distinct plus on your price. It's going to be a difficult task ahead. We've unfortunately come to a point where we've gone away from standards. Let's admit that. Lots of plantations are here, plantation big boys are here. Let's admit, our quality is no longer the same as what it was even 5 years ago. Yesterday I had two journalists from the Diviner paper enjoying a cup of tea, which being a government organization, it was St. Coombs. And they said, "Me wage teh koppe mata apita koheda bonna puluwan wenne." So I said there are many factors involved. But I said, to me, the same tea was here when I was here the previous times 18 years ago. But the aroma I got then, and there is no aroma now, is the difference of Ceylon tea quality. So there are many factors. You guys know, I don't have to tell you where we have gone wrong. But fact of the matter is, we need to find ways and means of making our industry sustainable so that we'll be relevant in the global supply equation. So for that, I wish Rainforest Alliance initiative that you can, of course you'll have to think differently. The model you've had up to now may not be the right model going forward for the next 10 years. You can ask the members of the Ceylon Tea Roadmap who are having an ambitious program working towards where Ceylon Tea should be by 2030. Try as much as possible to synergize with them and do something, because our plantations should not be sent in different directions. They should go on one track. For that you need to engage, as I can see few exporter members also here. You need to come into partnerships. You need to come into partnerships and get that assurance. And for that, I think you can think of ways of how you can add value to this. So I wish the workshop all the very best for the rest of the morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dimel. Appreciate it. Okay, so it's time to give a quick overview of RA's work in Sri Lanka. But before I start on that, what I'd like to see and say is what I have seen in the last 3 years working in RA in Sri Lanka is that and don't get me wrong, I'm not taking sides, but I believe the producers are doing as much as they can to get into a level of sustainability and to understand the issues that we have in the country. I would be very sad to see that if we can't protect the very people that are working in our industry and do the right thing by them, and why should we have an RA to come and tell us, you have to do this and you have to do that? We should be doing that ourselves. But having said all that, I firmly believe, as I would show a little later, 18 of our 20 regional plantation private companies are certified. I know we have dropped in our private estates or private factories in terms of its certification. But in the end, it's important to understand what the standard does. Yes, there is a cost, and the cost is the audit process. It's not the certification itself. So we'll also work on methods to see how we can, reduce that. But as working with Anil on the Ceylon roadmap, it's important that RA also binds in with that roadmap to understand how we also can provide input or provide in some way the sustainable aspect of that roadmap, which is 2030. RA also has a vision for 2030, and so it matches that. So if I can just put a hand up to Anil and say, please come back to us as to how we can also support on the roadmap, Anil. It'll be it might be a good thing, because that's what sustainability is all about. So that's what you're also trying to build, as you said. So again, we are a certification body. We are not here to bring buyers into the equation. But there are companies in Sri Lanka, you know yourself, that sell teas at over $20 a kilo. So how are they achieving it? Why can't a producer have a connection to a buyer directly? There is nothing stopping you. You could still go through the auction system, but why can't you have a connection? Why can't you build that reputation? Why can't you build that relationship? These are things that I'm seeing, and I'm a person coming out of the tea industry, so you might think, who's this idiot talking? But I believe very realistically, why can't there be a producer and an end buyer connection, but you still go through the system that has in Sri Lanka? So that's something that I've always wondered why it can't happen. So something to leave you with. So just really quick, as mentioned before, RA commenced operations in 2008, and Vitanakanda was the original factory, as Giri had told me, and then in 2012 we had Giri's company ASLM joining the system, and which did all the training for RA, and these are the numbers that we had in that time. Absolutely, numbers have changed, but I'll show you that on the next slide. So this is the Sri Lanka team that was just introduced. I'm sorry, Mihiri, she just joined, so I don't have a picture of her, but she's, I don't know where she is. Mihiri, why don't you come inside? And Giri still acts as an advisor, and hopefully will be continuing in that role into 2024 as well. So this is the tea exports. You already know all these numbers, but as Niraj said, up to September 2023, we are at 173,000 metric tons. And if October, November are not that great, achieving 250,000 would be hard. Again, another reason that RA is not, as you foresee, RA is not sustainable is probably this reason as well. Our main exports to countries are who don't care tuppence on sustainability. So do we go looking out for countries that do care? So hopefully with the SDSI model that we are trying to push through, where RA has decided that it can walk away from end buyers if they are not conforming, hopefully it might work in the right direction. We need to see how 2024 pans out. Again, I was asking Niraj yesterday what happened with Japan, and we have lots of reasons why Japan is not even in the equation. And I'll talk a little bit about Japan down the road with Kirin Beverages that we have on board here. So this is the current story of RA in Sri Lanka. We have 18 estates certified, 15 private factories. Jaka, don't worry, I'll share this with you. And total number of certificates in both is 33. We have 38 supply chain actors certified, certified estates 170, and certified smallholders at 38,000. We did have, under Giri's leadership and training, we did train 122,000 smallholders, and till about 2 years ago, there were about 73,000 smallholders certified, but as you can see, the number of private factories have dropped to 15 from 38, and that means your smallholders numbers also would drop. I'll give a quick update on the two key team aspects that we have working. This is Manori's role, the customer success role, and she's the first contact point for RA in Sri Lanka. She has resolved over 750 inquiries during the year, conducted over 20 group seminars, training related to the RA 2020 standard, managed more than 75 individual seminars, training related to RA 2020 platform. So basically, I think a big challenge that we also have is a lot of the administrators working on the day-to-day RA system also keep leaving your companies, so the new person needs to be retrained, and that's a big challenge that I think Manori does have, right, Manori? Is there anything else you would like to add, Manori, to this? No? Okay. And then we have Chamikara. I know all of you know him. He was a planter in his past history. So he is now playing the role that ASLM played, that Giri plays and played. So this is some of the work that he has done in 2023. Conducted training of PhDT extension officers on micro watershed conservation. Conducting a two-day training of the NIPM teaching staff, and I'll explain that in a little while. The NIPM first semester with RA standards commenced in July, so the agreement with NIPM is that the RA standard is part of the curriculum, and the first semester of that curriculum started in July this year. We're targeting over 10,000 small farmers to be trained in 2023. Green leaf collectors are also being trained on RA and being certified. And we have on board a few associate trainers that we call ATNs. We have 3 of them, right, Chami? Who help Chami and the requirements to do the training of the standard. So we have 2 MOUs that we have signed with 2 government-related institutions. And PhDT, and we have Lal, unfortunately, had to be in Norelia today, so Ranjaka is missing somewhere. Yeah, I see him there. Would give a quick presentation on the work that they do and the work that they're collaborating with RA. So pretty much building capacities of extension officers, of PhDT to do training and building micro watersheds. We are building 7 micro watersheds this year. We have already done, what's the exact number we have completed? 23 watersheds? And Kirin did? Yes, so we have completed 23 conservation of micro watersheds up to now. We are completing 7 this year, so that we have completed 16. And of that, with the 7 this year, we're doing 18 has been funded by Kirin Beverages. With NIPM, it was training of the lecturers of NIPM and the staff on the Rainforest Alliance standard. Dr. Nishamani Langatilaka is here, and she'll give you a bit of understanding of what's going on with that. Ranjaka from PhDT will also give a small presentation on the work that they are doing as well with RA. So it's preparing the curriculum for the future with the RA standard, and jointly also designing and conducting short courses. The first semester commenced in July 23. Stakeholder outreach. So the team here in Sri Lanka, we all want to say this, that if you do reach out, we'll do whatever we can to try and support. There are some aspects that we can't get involved with because of the standard and assurance guidelines, but please do reach out. We have specific roles to play, but if you need to speak to someone, I'm more than ready to talk and see how we can support with the team. I know she went somewhere. Yeah. The first line of contact technical is Manori, because there is some protocols that we had to follow in Sri Lanka, but certainly you can always call me and I'll tell you this is what you have to do, put it in writing, and connect with Manori. And Shamikara is also a line of contact for the training requirements, and Dasun, who's hiding behind the corner there, works for standard and assurance. So there are certain protocols that he can't do officially. So if anything, it needs to be written, anything to be connected with him needs to be written to him, and that's RA's protocols, which we have to follow. So, Nasun, anything else you want to add? Okay. Right. So I'm quickly going on the projects and programs with Rainforest Alliance in Sri Lanka. So we do have two main tea buyers. I know Unilever is on their BMF role, but they do project funding here in Sri Lanka. And SOW means Statement of Works. So we have 3 projects at the moment that's being conducted. So let me go with the Unilever project, and it's to do exactly what's on the screen. And as Madhuri said earlier, we would like to do some education awareness on social issues. And I'll be connecting with all the producers to see how we can maybe work on that in the year of 2024. I'll maybe individually connect with you all and see how, or maybe with Lalit and the PA and Senaka, to see how we can move that forward in 2024. So that's something that the Unilever team, Unilever is looking to fund. We have to give proposals before they give a green light to it, so that's why I would like to meet with even Leon and Lalit and Senaka. And maybe that might be the best way to approach it so that it can benefit all the regional plantation companies and the private estate owners as well. There is also, because of their requirement in Sri Lanka of the BMF, they would like to see some collectors of theirs also being trained. Kirin Beverages. So they are coming again next week, or already here, and that's their 5th trip into the country. They have been a big supporter of Ceylon teas. They've done a lot of work, and as you know how Japanese work, they are very, very keen on everything being ticked off in the right manner. As of the last 4 years or 3 years, they have spent more than $400,000 in Sri Lanka. And a lot of it is training smallholders, training factories of smallholders, retraining of regional plantation companies. They've done programs on biodiversity and conservation for youth from the regional plantation companies. And I do see 14 micro watersheds. I think the number is wrong. It should be a little more. And that will continue. And they have some plans that they want to continue till 2028. They also collaborated to fund Child Development Day on October 12th with PHTT. So they are a big support to Sri Lanka, and I have to say that. This project is the first project of its need in the world, a tea scorecard for regenerative agriculture. This has been done in coffee and cocoa before in other parts of the world, but the first time we're doing it, and we are piloting it in Sri Lanka with Alpitia plantations at the Nayapana estate. And the reason Elena and Evelyn and we were expecting 2 more to come, but they had problems with visas. So one more gentleman, Kuhn, whom some of you may know, who has been here to Sri Lanka before, will be here on Friday or on Saturday. And we'll be spending 4 days with Pradeep and Kaushal and Isadine and the team out in Nayapana, going through the regenerative agriculture process and setting up how we want to go ahead for the rest of the whole program for the year. I'm not going to say too much because Evelyn and Elena are going to provide more information, but this is basically what's going to happen. Phase 1 is only what's on the screen, developing the scorecard, pilot testing, sector socializing of the scorecard, and reporting and communication. Once we finish year 1, the next phase 2 would be 3 to 5 years. Okay, that's what I have on the rainforest work in Sri Lanka. And I'm sure if there is any questions, we can quickly take them. If not, I'd like to invite Dr. Nishamini Langathilaka, if you can come. Mrs. Ilanganithilaka, thank you, sorry, from NIPM. But is there anything that you would like to ask, or I was too boring, or I don't know. Okay, come.
Thank you, Jahan. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to thank RA officials on behalf of NIPM for giving this opportunity. And in this so, as a professional body, now how we are going to serve for the sector for enhancing sustainability. Actually, I think most of you are aware that as a professional body, what we do for the industry and what are the programs that we conduct at NIPM. And also I would like to share with you what we are doing with RA. And as now since 1979, we are serving for the industry as a professional body. So we are having around 43 years experience, and most of you are aware of the programs what we do for the industry. Anyway, I will share this with you now also. Then we can actually think to where we can incorporate with these RA standards also. So we are conducting different training programs under these categories. Academic programs, professional programs, then technical development programs, and many other programs. Then recently we have commenced the degree program as well, and there are so many diploma programs and higher national diploma programs and certificate courses. Then NVQ programs and non-NVQ diploma programs and other various international programs. And also we have newly introduced in 2023 new programs as well, like certificate course in tea packaging, and then skill development program for coconut industry, so on. I am not going to read all these programs, but we are also sustainability, environmental, and also all three pillars of sustainability. And now what I want to discuss with you and share with you this thing now, what we do with RA and how we incorporated this RA standards with NIPM programs. As explained earlier, now we trained. We have signed a MOU with RA, and there are so many activities. Among these activities, main activities are now train the NIPM officials, NIPM academic staff, as well as the external resource persons who involved in these programs, who impart the knowledge to the students. First thing is to train these staff on RA standards. Then develop the curriculum accordingly, including the RA standards, and also incorporate RA standards with short courses. So up to now, actually, we have already developed the curriculum of BTech degree in plantation crop technology with RA standards. The personnel who involves this BTech degree is actually A-level qualified graduates, as well as the personnel who are already existing in the industry, especially plantation executives and other personnel from the smallholding sector as well. So there are around 60 undergraduates now, which we have already started in last July. There we have included RA standards in different modules, such as management, then plant protection, agrometeorology, soil conservation, and other modules. We have incorporated these RA standards. Then developed the course materials as well with the guidance of RA officials. We had a training with Mr. Neelakant, Mr. Dasun, and other officials of RA. And meanwhile, we have developed course materials which are relevant to these aspects. And now we teach these modules for the BTech in plantation crop technology. Now this young personnel who entered this sector and join with the industry, they are armed with these concepts, mainly regarding sustainability of the industry. So, and we have introduced some short courses, workshops, and also incorporated RA standards with these courses. And our aim is to, actually our intention is to incorporate these RA standards with our other programs also now, which we are going to develop for the 2024 also. And we are conducting symposiums also. Last time also we have conducted, we had a symposium on plantation sustainability. So we incorporate these RA standards with all our, most of our programs. So these are the thoughts that I would like to share with you, and we can, I would like to get your views in which programs further we can include and incorporate these RA standards as well towards enhancing the sustainability in the industry. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Langathirka, much appreciated. We're running a little ahead, so I'd like to bring on Ranjaka Kulutunga from PHDT. Ranjaka is the Director of Finance for PHDT, and he'll give you an update of what they do and also the collaboration with RA.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. As most of you are known to me and the PHDT, good morning again, and thank you, Jahan and the RA team, for inviting. I have a representation of PHDT at this forum. Most of the gentlemen who are here are mainly our stakeholders, regional plantation companies, and most of you all know who we are. But however, for those who are not involved with us and who have built up new relationships, I would just like to run through a brief description of who we are. And PHDT is a tripartite organization formed under the Companies Act with the government, employer, and employees sitting on one board. Mainly the employers represented by the regional plantation companies, the government, ministries, including the treasury, and the trade unions representative. So these are main stakeholders. And this is how our board composition is. And it's a self-sustainable organization and with the support of the plantation companies. This is our regional network. We have 7 regional offices with our head office at Basaramulla. And these are the activities that we have been implementing throughout the 30 years of our existence. So all these activities are aimed as in improving the livelihood of the plantation worker community, increase productivity and the sustainability of the industry. So these are some of the few visuals I will share with you of the work that we have been doing. And in total, for the last 30 years, we have done work amounting to 16.5 billion as at beginning of this year. And however, during the year, there has been a slowdown in our activities, and especially in the infrastructure area. So I've been involved with this kind of activities, and yet more to come. These are only the hardware component of it, and there are, in addition to this, there's other software programs and awareness programs that we have conducted and we are conducting at the moment. So these are some of the housing schemes that we do. We are involved with the infrastructure in the estates. Early childhood development, these are ECD centers. These are funded by the government, World Bank funded program. And play areas and improvements to the existing CDCs as well. We have completed the project almost, and water and sanitation is another area that we work on. And our objective is to give the community clean drinking water, and these are the water schemes that we have facilitated with the help of the support of the Water Ministry and the Water Board. And these projects are completed and yet more to come. Health and nutrition is another area that we work on with the government and many other donors. Various clinics and health camps, awareness programs are conducted in the estates. Food security is something that we are now thinking of and we are planning. We're doing community farming. And these are the CDC, the Child Development Centers. We are inculcating from the young age to grow in their own CDC compounds for their own consumption and training, inculcating habits to the children of the CDCs. A midday meal program that is continuing, and this too was given to the children who are attending the CDCs, and we are expanding it to other children as well in the plantations. The Cooperative Estate Worker Housing Cooperative Society, which is the vehicle that we use to carry out all these programs, and we are trying to develop and strengthen the cooperative system and saving habits. And there are a lot of INGOs and international donors who are working with us at the moment. These are the certifications that we have obtained, ICTAD and the ISO 9000 series. And these are the awards we have obtained, won over the years: Business Excellence, Social Dialogue. And for our transparency in accounting, annual reports have been recognized by the Institute of Chartered Accountants and the South Asian Federation of Accountants continuously. And with Rainforest Alliance, we've entered into a MOU covering watersheds in these areas. Noor area we are having 3, and in the Hatton region we are having 4 in these estates, which are already commenced, and work is going on. And with the objective of identifying the watersheds to be conserved. And we are going on an approach of trainer approach, where our PhDT staff is trained and continue to have these awareness programs by themselves in the future for the sustainability. So these are the allocations and the stand where we, at the moment, where we stand. And these watersheds, in the 3 watersheds will be completed by first week of December. The material is already at site. This is the status as of last week, and now I think it has gone further. And these are also the 4 watersheds that are in the Hatton region. This will be completed by the second week of December. So by that, we'll be completing 7 watersheds. RA through Kirin Beverages, we commemorated the Children's Day in our area, where about 300 children participated along with their parents. And thank you for Kirin for their generous sponsorship. And the theme was Let's Manage Nearby Watersheds, and where we had some cultural events and competitions highlighting the importance of environmental protection, so that from the young age the children will know the importance of it. And these are some visual photographs that we would like to share. So these are the activities that we have been working with RA during the past few months, and we hope to continue over even next year as well, on a long-term relationship basis. And the main idea is to, now we are moving out from the traditional housing and infrastructure facilities to protection of environment and nutrition status, mainly to sustained industry, increased productivity of the workers. Thank you very much for your patient hearing.
I'll take a minute here just to give big kudos to the Sri Lanka team for bringing these partnerships together. Both PHDT and NIPM are very strategic partnerships that Rainforest Alliance is trying to bring into the country, and we plan to get into more and more of these partnerships. When we started talking to PHDT, I remember I was impressed with the amount of work that they are doing for the estates, but also to see the overlap with our standard requirements, whether it's housing, whether it's infrastructure. A lot of the requirements of our standard was the work which PHDT was doing, which is the reason why we got into this partnership with them to see how we can scale up our efforts. The donor amount that we are getting from Unilever or Kirin, for example, on micro watersheds, we can actually implement it in some of the defined estates under the project. But through these kind of partnerships, for example, with PHDT, we plan to take it to the next level for scaling it up. So that through their extension officers who are trained on these micro watersheds, which are so important element of sustainability, they are able to take it up to the next level for scaling it up across different estates in the country. And I think Sri Lanka has been pioneering within Rainforest Alliance. We work across more than 70 countries and we are globally present. But these kind of partnerships are really useful for us to set an example how we can work with alliances is a part of our name, Rainforest Alliance. So unless we get into these partnerships, we can't get across addressing these issues of sustainability. I think I just wanted to point that out. Also with NIPM, it's not just about integrating RA standard, it's about integrating sustainability within the course curriculum so that the people who are getting into the plantation sector are already attuned. Whether or not these estates take RA certification, that's immaterial to us when we talk about these partnerships. We want to bring sustainability to the tea sector as a whole. Our standard is just one tool. If certification costs are too high for smallholders, for example, they may not get into certification, but the sustainability principles that our standard calls for is something that we would want the sector to adopt. Just to give an example, climate change is a very integral part of our lives. We don't have to get into scientific evidence which is provided by IPCC, for example, to understand that climate change is happening. We are facing it in day-to-day basis. We are facing it in our productivity in tea farms. We are looking at the pest infestations which are happening because of the weather events which are unpredictable and the productivity losses which are happening at the each farm level. To bring the resilience, to build resilience of these tea farms, we have our standard which has climate smart agriculture practices imbibed in it, and we would want the sector to adopt those practices. So I think the partnerships with NIPM, PHDT, and I'm sure the team will identify more, for example, for social issues. Jehan, I'm looking at you. So the team would be able to identify more of these partnerships, and I call on different organizations to come forward and see how we can actually collaborate with them and take forward the sustainability for the tea sector to survive, because we know what are the challenges that they are facing at the moment, and we need to find solutions in collaborations and partnerships together. I also had something else in my mind. I'm next? No. That I already covered in the opening part on the shared responsibility. Okay. So I think partnerships is something I see as really an important role for us going forward. And I would really encourage the sector as a whole to share with us. I think what is the most interesting session for today is the breakout session, where we are holding certain questions for all of us to deliberate on how we can work this out. Not one stakeholder, not Rainforest Alliance alone can make the difference, and we really need everyone to come together. So during those roundtable discussions, we would be having some groups who can talk about certain issues, and we want to explore with your feedback to see how we can work and improve our work even better in Rainforest, in Sri Lanka going forward. Let me pause here, because I think if we have more time for roundtable discussions, it's even better. I already spoke about shared responsibility earlier, and we addressed some questions also.
Thank you. So, Evelyn and Elena, would you like to come on?
Agriculture. It is my first time in Sri Lanka, and I'm very excited to be here and to be able to go and visit the tea plantations next week, but also to enjoy some of the other things in Sri Lanka has to offer, such as the amazing meal I shared last night with Jayan and Maduri. I'm extremely excited. So I'm here today together with Elena, and we both come from the United States and from Amsterdam. And we're definitely not experts on tea, and we're definitely not experts on Sri Lanka and the tea industry here. What we are here to talk about today, though, is about regenerative agriculture. And one of the reasons that we'd like to start talking about this topic and this concept is that the Rainforest Alliance has made it one of its strategic priorities for 2030 to start to work on regenerative agriculture and to formulate what does this mean. How can we best help the 400 million producers that we work with? How can we best talk about this topic? How can we formulate what it is? And how can we support the various industries we're working in and sectors transform to regenerative practices? So Jay, maybe just a question to the room here today. Who has heard of the concept regenerative agriculture before? You can show your hands if you've heard about it. Okay, so there are some hands up in there. Great. Regenerative agriculture is actually not a new concept. It's more a redefinition, and it's a continuation of a process and of a trend that has taken place over the last 30 years, I would say. So where we started in traditional production systems and moved towards sustainable production systems, actually regenerative agriculture is a continuation of this trend. And it really has the aim to create a net positive impact on its environment. It's something that I think, though, you'll find when you start to look at it is also not a new concept, in that a lot of traditional production systems and traditional production methods already enhance and embrace a lot of the practices that are included in our regenerative agriculture definitions. When I first was talking to Giri, he said, you'll come to Sri Lanka and you'll find that actually we already practice a lot of regenerative agriculture here. So it's definitely not a new concept, but it is a concept that has recently been, I think, taken ownership of and been introduced again to the market by the private sector. So the private sector, and specifically the large international corporations, are embracing this concept and are embracing this terminology and definition, and really looking to adopt regenerative agriculture in their supply chains. There are lots of different definitions of what this is, and it's still definitely in its new phases. But the definition that we use at the Rainforest Alliance is on the screen, and it's that we take an agroecology and integrated systems approach. And regenerative agriculture aims to increase biodiversity, enhance ecosystem services, and increase agro-ecosystem resilience. Also, hopefully having positive influences on livelihoods and leading to potential cost reductions for producers. So why, oh yeah, a little bit more about this. So some of the key impacts that regenerative agriculture aims to have and that we at the Rainforest Alliance also see that it has is that it can have an impact on healthy soils, so improved soil quality. It can have an impact on climate mitigation. It can have an impact on ecosystem resilience and ecosystem services, and it can have an impact on livelihoods. At the Rainforest Alliance, we have also got a technical paper on this, which I invite you all to read more about our technical in-depth definition and what we define as regenerative. It's on our website, but I'll also make sure that Jayan has the link to it, so you can all read about it more in your own time. But why am I actually here talking about this, specifically as there are so many challenges already in the tea sector, and also in general, it has been found quite difficult to, adopt and work with Rainforest Alliance certification system. As the Mr. Chairman just told us from the Tea Board, we are also looking at ways in which we can innovate and in which we can find ways to provide extra value and extra recognition to the producers across our various commodities. So we've already been working on regenerative agriculture in the coffee industry, and we have already published regenerative agriculture in the private sector. So alone between 2019 and 2022, we saw that there was a growth of 130% of the companies mentioning regenerative agriculture. What does this mean? It means that they are setting commitments, they're talking about it, and they want to make claims about what they're doing on these topics. So we see that as something where there's a growing interest from companies and also a growing regulation that's moving towards adaptation and the importance and that producers are often being confronted already with climate change, and certain practices brought in by regenerative agriculture can support the resilience and support farms identifying how to increase resilience of their plots to these different risks. Additionally, learning how to and working with integrated pest management systems and integrated weed management systems can potentially reduce the need of using external inputs, which can also help sometimes with reducing costs. And there are a lot more benefits, and I think this is also something that at the moment there's a lot of research being done into, like what are the exact benefits and how can we make sure and prove that these benefits and that this is a business case for not just the private industry, not just the producers, but for the whole sector as a whole, and really trying to tie into those global trends that we're seeing. A big important part of this, and that's what I just mentioned, is that it does have the opportunity to tackle two of the big challenges that we face at the moment, which are the climate change challenge and the biodiversity challenge. And this is really why the international community is very interested in these topics. So that's a little bit more about the why are we working on here, why am I even here today to talk about it, and why do we see that this is something that has a potential to grow. Both from a business point of view, but also from a sustainability point of view. So I'll just say here one more time, there's a slight glitch with the slides. So at the Rainforest Alliance, we have developed a strategy for 2030 on how we want to approach the topic of regenerative agriculture. This strategy includes developing programs that have 5 different elements. The first element is developing a scorecard for our important priority crops. This scorecard will really allow there to be a better understanding of what are we talking about when we're talking about regenerative agriculture, specifically for that crop, which practices are we talking about, and how can we help producers, but also buyers, differentiate between different levels of regenerative agriculture. So really making sure that there's a type of data collection system, that there's a better insight into what are the priority practices that need to be adopted to be able to transition to a regenerative agriculture system, and being able to recognize those producers that are already further advanced in their journey. So continuously supporting the improvement and the growth on the regenerative agriculture practices. The second part of our programs will include a monitoring and evaluation or assurance format, so finding a way to actually make sure that whatever a buyer would like to say is actually is being checked on, is being monitored, and that there's some kind of open transparency in terms of data of these different indicators. The third part of our programs will include an incentive system. We're very aware that, as we heard this morning, we can't keep asking producers to do more and add on to their list of commitments, and they're taking on more the whole time without there being some type of incentive from the market. So what we're really trying to find are systems in which we can create an incentive for producers, for the private market, because they are the end people who want to be able to talk about this and want to be able to make certain claims. And that's finally the last point of our programs, is looking at what type of claims can a company make if they're investing in a certain project in their supply chain, or if they're supporting with certain trainings. What do these claims look like? What is fair for them to be able to say? How much can they say? So we're really trying to take a holistic approach when we look at regenerative agriculture, and we're really at the start of this journey. So we're in the first years, we're piloting different approaches, and we're piloting these approaches also here in Sri Lanka. So I'm going to give the word to Elena, who's part of our scientific team on regenerative agriculture, to tell you a little bit more about what is the scorecard and what does it look like, and how are we going to be approaching it for tea as well here in Sri Lanka.
Yes, perfect. Thank you, Evelyn. Yes, as Evelyn said, I want to say a few words about how we work with the scorecard system in the Rainforest Alliance and what does it mean. And the first thing that I want to say is that at RA we see regenerative agriculture as a process, so we really want to focus on the transition rather than aiming directly for a final outcome. And the other thing that I think is important to mention is that our approach to regenerative agriculture is practice-based. So we focus really on the practices that the farmers are implementing. What does this mean? I can give one example, a couple of examples to say what we mean with a practice-based approach. So we have, for example, a producer who is using some sort of soil cover, and who is applying synthetic fertilizers, applying pesticides. Maybe some of these are highly hazardous pesticides, and has some level of agroforestry. So we see this as, we can say, a conventional farm that is applying all these practices. And it's getting a Rainforest Alliance seal because it is complying with the standard, even though, again, some points we can see that they could be improved in the transition towards regenerative. Farm 2, we can think of a farm that is using some form of soil cover, again, and it's sometimes applying organic matter. So it's not only relying on external synthetic fertilizers, it has an integrated pest management system, it is applying low toxicity pesticides, and it has an agroforestry system that is well managed. So we see that there is a transition compared to the previous farm. Again, it is getting a Rainforest Alliance seal, it is complying with the standard. And then we have Farm 3, who is using cover crops. It's controlling the weeds through the use of cover crops, so there is no external herbicides being applied. It has a circular system, so it is applying organic matter, not only relying on external fertilizer, or possibly not relying at all on external fertilizers. It has riparian buffers, so it is protecting the freshwater resources, protecting biodiversity as well. And it has a multi-strata agroforestry system, so there are several species, there is a complexity in the agroforestry system and in the canopy cover. Again, it is getting a Rainforest Alliance seal because it is complying with the standard. So what we want to do is being able to demonstrate, for farmers to demonstrate that they're performing better in terms of regenerative practices. And so what we have now in the standard is smart meter indicators, but we want to be able to recognize the extra effort of certain farmers compared to others. And so this is where we have the scorecard level. So you see bronze, silver, and gold. So these are 3 levels corresponding to different implementation of regenerative practices. And this is what we want to do, is giving producers and the industry that is working with the producers the possibility to make claims that are based on the practices and on the results that they see on the farms. So yeah, the tool that we're building is the scorecard, and as it was previously said, we had already built this and published this for coffee, and it has been developed for cocoa and palm as well, even though that is not published yet. We focus on selected key performance indicators, so in the areas of soil health, biodiversity, water, crop resilience, and livelihoods. And it is a way to track progress and to assess how the farmers are performing in terms of regenerative transition. So the idea is not only to track this progress, but also to be able to identify where more work could be done to actually facilitate this transition. So it's also a tool to actually say, okay, this is where we need to put more work into. And it's also a way to facilitate the producers in moving forward beyond the current standard requirements. So really pushing more the limits of what they can do to become more sustainable and to have a regenerative system in place. And then, as I said before, the idea is also to offer the possibility to reward farmers and again the companies that work with them through claims that actually what they are producing is regenerative. This is what the scorecard looks like. Again, this is the coffee scorecard, so that's actually available on the Rainforest Alliance site. So you see it is arranged by topic, and for each topic we have activities and what would be a bronze level, silver level, and gold level. For tea, again, we still need to define it. We're really at early stages, but examples could include, for agroforestry, the number of species, the percentage of cover. For soil, evidence that the soil is actually in good health, there's no signs of erosion, and then, of course, the presence of organic matter and the fact that, for example, pruning cuttings are applied, etc. And in terms of nutrients, we would look at what is the composition of the soil inputs, and how they are delivered to the soil. Again, this needs to be defined, but just maybe to give you an idea of what kind of practices we're planning to look into. And yes, as it was said before, for tea, we're really starting now, and it's very exciting for us, and we are starting in Sri Lanka. This is a project joint in collaboration with Kirin. I think, yeah, Jehan mentioned it before, so I'm not going to say too much about it, but we're now really at the beginning. So we're going to the field next week and looking at what practices are already in place. We're collaborating with LPTA Plantation, and we're understanding that they're already very advanced in terms of sustainability practices. So yeah, we're very happy with this collaboration. And the idea is to start developing a scorecard based on what we will see on the field and with discussions with experts who know the Sri Lankan context better than Evelyn and I do, for sure. And then after that, we will pilot test the scorecard to see, if it actually makes sense and what we see if it's applicable. And then the idea is to, revise the scorecard, socialize it, and finally publish it. And I think that's it from our side for now, and maybe we have a few minutes for questions if there are questions.
Maybe just to add something that's good. We are at the start of this, so what this journey will look like moving forward is that this year and next year we're going to be piloting the development of this approach, and we're going to be speaking to various stakeholders. So that means we're going to probably be coming back to this group of stakeholders here at some point with a draft of the scorecard and be asking for input. Like, do these make sense? What do you think of it? Is it realistic for Sri Lanka? Is it feasible? Trying to get an understanding and making sure that it is something that is properly rooted in our context, because we do see that this is a context-specific approach is needed. And once that has happened, we'll be looking at scaling this program and potentially other program with other funders, to including more plantations and including more producers. And following that phase, there in the future is a potential that we'll start to look at how we can include it in our smart meter options with the certification system. But that is really following a process in which we've looked at, does it work? In what circumstances does it work? Are we all aligned on that these are the right practices to be focusing on? So that's just so that we understand where we are in that general process and how we're growing this. And this is very similar to our process across the different crops at RA. No, that's it.
Thank you, Evelyn. Thank you, Elena. Thank you very much. Just to quickly add, so Kirin Holdings and Beverages are co-funding this pilot project, and they have indicated that they would like to work with Alpitia. So we have been working with Alpitia for a while in terms of the discussions. Alpitia does supply to Kirin, and there has been a relationship with Kirin in the past as well, Pradeep, correct? You have a CDC or something like that that they had built as well. So that's one of the reasons, but Kirin is very keen on continuing this process with other RPCs as well. And we are in discussion, and it's not a finalized discussion yet, but we are in discussion with Unilever and Pepsi Lipton also to do a similar project. And that will be also with the smallholders, and we are hoping that it will come through. Yes, Madhuri?
I think I just want to further add to this that though we are starting with one particular estate or one particular group of smallholders, the whole idea is to socialize this concept of scorecard for the entire sector so that the sector as a whole can grow and flourish and adopt these regenerative agriculture practices. So these are just the pilots, and then we want to bring different stakeholders on board, including, for example, the tea board, the tea research institution, and others over this period of 1 year to share the learnings from it and be able to create an impact for the entire tea sector, not just in Sri Lanka, but also taking it to other countries going forward, which are tea producing, including India, Indonesia, Turkey, Kenya, and others. So this pilot phase is really important and crucial for us at Rainforest Alliance to make it a success. And we really hope that we are able to create that impact for the sector as a whole going forward in different origins. Thank you.
Okay, the next part of this is predominantly for you folks also to hear some of your frustrations as well, and to come together and provide us direction in terms of how we also should continue in 2024. So the Sri Lanka team, I'm not too sure how do we do this? Do we break into like, or just separate them where they are and then just any thoughts?
See, we have 3 key areas where we want to collect your feedback. The idea is that now that we all are here, you have heard from us so much, we want to hear from you. And we want to hear from you around 3 key topics. One is, how do you think RA can support its members in the ease of implementation of the certification program? We know that you are facing a lot of challenges. We are trying to find solutions. We want to find solutions jointly with you. So this one group is going to target the certification program and how can we make things even better for you. Like we are working on making, as I mentioned, sustainability investment template easier for you to be able to understand, fill those templates. Are there any other bottlenecks where you feel if RA can work on its certification program? We are looking at the simplification of the documentation requirements, for example. We looked at different committees which are required, the grievance committee, the and blah, 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 other committees which are needed. How can we integrate those committees so that there is less of a complication for the members to implement the certification program. So this one group, and please organize yourself or think within your table which question you would like to address. One set of feedback we would like to know from you is, how do you think, what are the key elements in the certification program, because you are implementing those certification programs, where do you think that we can improve better? That's one. And within the table, I think within the existing table, they can identify which questions they would like to take up. And within that same group, maybe one of you could nominate yourself to be able to come back here and share the discussions which are held around this round table. The second, and there are flip charts which you can come up and answer. The second question is, how can RA facilitate and or better support the market developments of RA certified tea? Again, very key question that we've been hearing all this while. We've got RA certified, we don't have the market. Now we talk to the tea board, we've talked to other stakeholders and try to find how can we really help it. For us, it's important to set the sustainability standard requirement that the producers must meet. The rest we keep it for the market forces to work on themselves. There's a demand and supply which should ideally be able to take it up. But we are also willing to work with the stakeholders to see how can we support better. Are there any potential solutions you think can come up? We can jointly brainstorm on that. That's the second question on the market. So first is on the certification program. How can we make it even more simplified and easy for you for implementation? The second is on the market development of certified teas. And the third is on the Sri Lanka team that we have, that you have been interacting with. So like 3 years ago, there was no, except Giri. Giri was the army in himself for RA in Sri Lanka, and he created all of these certification programs. But as we improved further our certification programs, the requirements became more complicated, and we started developing the team of RA in Sri Lanka. So if there is any feedback that you would like to give on the team, do you think the team is supporting you better? Do you think the team being present in Sri Lanka makes it much easier? Because earlier there were people in India who were supporting the team in Sri Lanka as well, and they were overwhelmed. And so RA invested on more resources to be hired in Sri Lanka so that they can support the members and the certification program in Sri Lanka. So we would also like to hear from you if you would like to give any feedback or anything about the support overall that you are getting in the certification program in Sri Lanka. Do you think that it has improved? Do you think it needs further improvement? Do you think certain things could improve? We would love to hear from you. So these are the three key elements. I would suggest across the table, if all of you could, and I can see there are six tables, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tables, which are there. I leave it up to the group on the table to identify which question they would like to address. You can also address all three if you want. But I would like all of you to talk to each other and see how you think that this can, because we want to have your feedback, and this we thought would be a good opportunity for us to collect that feedback and go back home with it and see how we can improve further. So one member from our team would be on each round table to help minute those discussions. Jihan, is that possible? One person from us on each table to help capture the minutes. And someone from you, from each table, if can come up and talk, we would love to hear from you. Any questions on this or any suggestions how we can further improve on this process? Does everyone agree to this? Does anyone have any objection to this? Raise of hand if anyone has an objection. Okay, so I believe everyone understands, everyone agrees, and I'm hoping that this really brings us some good feedback which we can take back to our teams globally and say this is what Sri Lanka wants. Just to give you an example, in Kenya, when we had these problems, we also came up with contextualized guidelines for Kenya, where we said there are specific issues which are contextual to Kenya, and they can be addressed in a certain way based on the different engagements with stakeholders. We also hope that if in Sri Lanka we have these kind of discussions, we can come up with specific issues which are relevant for Sri Lanka. I mean, we have a global standard, but there may be contextual issues in Sri Lanka which you would want to be addressed. These kind of discussions will help us contextualize those issues and challenges as well. So I really encourage you to have open discussions in this roundtable, constructive discussion, also critical feedback is welcome. Anything that comes to your mind broadly around these questions would be really useful for us to collect as a feedback. Is that okay, Jehan?
Okay.
Everybody's still looking at me. Is everything okay? Does this time well? So maybe you can arrange your chairs so that you can talk to each other. And we have Manoli, we have maybe or one.
Yeah.
Get him.
Yeah. Krishna, you write film. And Stakeholder. Yeah, this. Yeah.
Everything seems relevant.
So these two, these two came. No, these two are going together. They want to go together. These would like to. Hi, Channa. Hi, guys. Talk about it. Money.
Yeah, so which area does it fall on? Thank you. Maybe one. That's one. First question as well. Yeah, it's not together. When it's complicated, the application forms and yeah. And even application, it's a very tedious task. You need to fill so many forms. So that's the first question. Your first and last questions are both that. And that came for